the Orville. We're going back and reviewing the Orville from the beginning, so hopefully we can get that done before it comes back for season 2. We can
Family
actually.
Guy in space.
Um, you know, according to what I read, it's not coming back until like December, the end of December. I think we got time, but
Yeah.
Far away.
I know.
Anyway, so today we're covering season 1, episode 1, Old Wounds, the premiere.
I know. Now, technically, I didn't rewatch it, but I remembered enough of it.
Well, I rewatched it this morning. I used my Fox preview. You get like an hour preview of stuff, so you can just watch any one of the episodes, for an hour. But yeah, it's what?
But I haven't watched it recently.
Yeah, that's why I also have the wiki up. But yeah, it's an interesting opener. A lot happens in the opener. We get
he comes home to a
blue guy.
Yeah.
With his wife, which we find out later on, what that's about. But it does go out of its way to really, it's like, that's that character, and it's like, that's that character. It's very much trying to introduce all of your characters and give them a basic sort of, this is sort of what this character's about, Malloy, he's a bit of a drinker, but he's also an excellent helmsman,
I'm looking at pictures now of it just as a refresher. That guy, the blue guy, kind of reminds me of Shran.
He doesn't have antenna though.
No, but I mean just the face.
Let's see. But everybody gets a little bit of something.
It's like, isn't your people known to be extremely racist?
The fact that worked without anybody, without him, I guess he's doesn't have emotions necessarily because he's a tin man, but he that would have gone. That's I guess it's technically true, but
it's like, if you mean we think we're superior to all life, then yes.
Yes, it's technically true, but he doesn't really have an emotional response to it. But one thing with it is, it's a very creative way of the end of it, of destroying the enemy ship. It's like, yes, we're going to grow a tree through it. Which there's a which would a tree be able to grow through that? And the how big is the time field? Is it really, they could have just, in a way, if they could have had a field large enough to always cover the entire tree, you could have just set it to overload, and then it just goes over the entire ship and everybody ages to death. If you could cover the entire tree the entire time. I mean, when it's a seed up to the end of its range of its sort of, thing, its cone of effect.
Well, one, he couldn't make the Arbor Day joke. And two, this wasn't a normal seed. This was super seed.
Yes, but it still needs time to grow.
And three, at least part of it was within that field at all times. Therefore, part of it was constantly growing at an accelerated rate, which causes the rest of the tree to either have to catch up or die. But because it's gaining the nutrients from the accelerated growth, it is continuously growing at an accelerated rate because the entire tree is growing at the accelerated rate that is within the field where the roots are, presumably because that's where the seed was.
But yeah, well, it's still, that would be I guess they set it to a very wide band. Like this is a wide sphere so that they could. I don't know, but it's just like,
I mean,
I don't know.
with real trees, you need at least the part that's getting the leaves to have light. But at the
Well,
base,
there's a lot wrong with that tree. From
yeah.
I'm putting aside its growth and whatnot, and just chalking that up to sciencey, technobabble reasons why it works, because there are some serious problems with how this tree works in general.
I mean, a blade of grass can grow through concrete, so
Yes, but it still needs the water to grow, and it still needs
Nutrient.
carbon dioxide to needs light,
And
water,
light.
and carbon dioxide in order to grow. And if it didn't have water right there, which it didn't look like,
And the appropriate nutrients.
what?
And appropriate nutrients.
Yes, but just the micronutrients are they're down the line on the technobabble scale, because the sheer mass of the tree would require, you can't create mass out of nothing.
True.
So, assuming that the accelerator isn't providing energy, it's just creating a time acceleration, then if that's true, then it still has to get that mass from somewhere. And is there going to be enough water available or carbon dioxide for it in order to photosynthesize? I'll go ahead and give you the lighting, though, isn't very good on krill ships. It's not very good because it's sort of all dim, so it wouldn't be a very good growing place. But I'll just give them that, because photosynthesis, okay, we engineered the photosynthesis to work really, really well. It can work in low light conditions. Okay, I'll give you that. It's very good.
There's plants that can grow using just radiation instead of light. In the depths of the ocean and in caves, you get moss and.
But yeah, I'm going ahead and giving them that. That fits well within the technobabble. Okay, it's just very efficient, and they have some technology about that. But you cannot defy the laws of physics.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Science with Crunchy Monkey Studios.
What I think would have been a better visual for that would have been more you know how in the old cartoons, when they had the plants growing like at an accelerated rate, the tentacles looking roots would grow and the tree's branches would extend within the confines of the thing, breaking it apart. That's how it should have grown. Because a plant will try to follow the path of least resistance. Therefore, it wouldn't have grown like a knife through the ship. It would have expanded out through the ship and blown it to smithereens.
Yeah. We could have, again, it's a matter of,
aesthetic. That whole thing is just a matter of aesthetics.
Yeah, at that point you're doing technobabble there, and it's like, okay, how does it grow? Does it, like you said, does it grow? Does growing in the time field below affect above? It didn't seem to with the scientist got her head stuck in it. Her head got old, but her body was fine. It was just her brain
Plants
rotted
and
out.
plants and animals have different kinds
Yeah,
of
yes, I know, but whether that actually, that I don't. There's no way of, accelerating the aging of just one plant. We can't do that experiment on Earth, so we wouldn't know whether that would actually even work. I suspect it wouldn't, but you can believe what you want to believe on
Well,
that.
it's simple. It wasn't a time device. It was really a
That's
plot
exactly what it
convenience
was, because that's what the
device.
technobabble was.
No, it
But
was plot. It was the plot convenience.
yeah, but at that point, if you could just amp up the power, just get it to act, set it to just take as much, siphon as much power from the system as possible, and then just make the biggest time dilation or time, compression that you can, and then just turn that on. You don't even need the tree. You just kill everybody by old age and by rusting the ship to pieces. you know But at that point as well, you could have just loaded some explosives onto the shuttle and hit the button when it got inside. It's like, oh yes, we're sending the time device. Here it
There's a
is. They just took it
Trojan
in.
horse in space.
or even since it is a temporal device, had a within the base of the device an explosive that slowly eats away, and when they by activating it, it speeds up the decay of that, causing the explosion.
But yeah, there's loads of ways you could use that sort of thing as a weapon. Thus, that's why they basically were saying, yes, this has some great potential as a crop
Weapon.
thing, but the thing with the crop thing is you would have to be really careful about how you used it, and you probably need a good deal of power, because if you wanted to make crops grow instantly, you'd have to have, okay, this needs to cover this bit of acreage, and you know you'd have to signpost everything. Do not go past this point. Past this point is temporal. You will age months.
Not only that,
You'd probably
but
starve as well, because you wouldn't have, you'd have only what was available inside the bubble.
yeah, but I mean, with that, because it is a temporal device and it speeds up time, does your perception of time within that field continue linearly? So
I would think so, because it has to, because in order to have the the plants grow, they have to be going forward. That was the whole explanation for it. Was it basically speeds up time within this bubble, and so since it speeds up time within the bubble, I would think you would experience thing like the woman who got her head stuck in the thing. She probably experienced 120 years of whatever, however old she was, plus that. Of course, that also takes into account her brain needed all the sugar to run that, and the circulatory system. That's got to be the just the differential in the time rate probably would have killed her, just because your blood's flowing at one speed, then it enters and it flows at a different speed, and then it comes back out and it's flowing, and it's just, that seems like that's very bad for such a delicate organ. But
yeah,
she probably experienced, for a short time, she probably experienced extreme, within the bubble, it was normal time. But since she was looking out and the light was, there, she could probably see it, but it would have seemed very, very slow to her. Like everybody was moving in slow motion. Which also
That would
brings
be
up the
scary.
fact that it wouldn't really work for growing, because they also need to absorb all the photons. Where do the photons come from? Light. You would have
yeah,
to you'd have
they
to
would
speed up
absorb
a
all the
light source as well.
light.
You'd have to speed up the light source, and a
Although it
power
does
generator and
provide
all of that
light,
in order to grow things super fast.
although it did sort of provide its own light within the field. The field generator itself created light.
Yeah, but not a whole lot. Not sort of growing lights that you would need. But yeah, you'd have to put power generation, light,
It
and
depends because they've been doing research and they use LED lights in order to grow crops in areas like in Japan. They actually have growing centers
yeah,
that are
that's fine. And
held
I'm not
upon.
saying you can't do that. What I'm saying is you would have to be within the time field. You couldn't just use the sun because the sun is, say, launching energy at 5 clicks a second. Okay, I'm just
But
okay. Yeah, that's
but
that's
I'm
always going to
saying
hit. I'm not saying you couldn't grow it. But you just would have to enclose the lights and the power source within the time, whatever the time sphere that you're using. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, but the time field itself provides light.
Not really. It
And
didn't look like it.
I thought it was a glowing light. The
But
field
yeah, but
itself.
it's not going to be near enough to grow crops.
Well, this was first of all just a small example.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think you would have to have. You would have to. You would have to have a separate light source because I don't think it produces enough light. Um, in order to just the temporal thingy doesn't produce enough light on its own, but in order to get it to work, you would have to set up a power system and a lighting system inside because otherwise you wouldn't have enough. There wouldn't be enough energy, sun energy, to grow crops. You'd have to put all that within the where you're going to put the bubble, then turn the bubble on, let it run, make sure it's got plenty of and you'd have to put all the stuff it's going to need for the entire growing season because you're going to simulate basically shrink down a growing season into a shortened period of time. You'd have to set up, your water reservoir within the bubble, your light, your water, your nutrients, any fertilizer you want to put on it. You would have to put all of that already inside the bubble. Otherwise, it's not going to flow fast enough, to water and light and feed everything if you want to use extremely accelerated growth. It would be a big you'd have a grow house, you'd top off all the water, you'd top off all the fertilizer and all the batteries for the light all at once, and then you'd get everybody out of there, you'd automate it, you press a button, the time dilation happens, you accelerate a day to a growing season, then you could grow. Oh, and there's the plants. You turn off the thing and they're ready to harvest. Because everything would have to be within the time dilation.
I just have one comment about all this. Applejack would hate the device.
Well, that's the weird thing about that in My Little Pony is they're always harvesting. It's like these things have seasons. How are you always harvesting?
Right?
Earth Pony magic. But yes, that's my excessive rant on how this dilation thing would have to. I think you would have to go.
Well, just remember the important rule about all shows like this: science fiction.
Yeah. Well, MST3K, Mystery Science Theater. If you're wondering how he eats and breathes and other science facts, just think to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax.
I do have one more explanation. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yes, that would. Yeah, that. Wizard did it.
Well, see, the thing I remember about these seeds is like they were designed to literally grow anywhere. Desert, tundra, like it didn't matter where you put them, they could just
Yeah, but
grow.
it's still, you, to quote Scotty again, you cannot defy the laws of physics.
What laws of physics? I see no laws of physics.
They're more like guidelines than actual rules.
Exactly.
Like quoting with quoting.
Yeah. But yes, there's still mass. You have to worry about mass and energy, and these things don't just pop out of nowhere. But
Unless you're the doctor.
I truthfully, I did forget that episode 1 was the tree episode.
and I think, I think the Arbor Day joke was better. I might be in a minority here, but I think the Arbor Day joke
It was a
better.
pretty funny joke. I thought it was like funny. It's like, wait, what's Arbor Day?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Well, I mean, it was as opposed to, you got wood. It's like, no, the Arbor Day was clever and it was funny.
Yeah.
I agree with, I think the captain had a better joke.
Yeah. I mean, he is the comedian, so.
Well, I mean, everybody was like, no, you got wood's better. It's like, no, Arbor Day is clearly the superior joke. Of course, I suppose that's only for those who know what they're talking about, but...
They don't know. It's you got to know your audience. And their audience didn't, his audience was a group of people who didn't know what Arbor Day was. Because who cares about plants in the future?
Yeah. Was that, an aside, Madraka? Did you just start a game?
Game?
Even it. No, I'm editing a video, but I muted my mic.
Well, no, that's not what I'm going after here. I'm not going to say the title of the game, but it announces when you start a game of something. Maybe it was somebody else and I saw it wrong, but
Weird.
Oh, it's when he
Deep Space.
Yeah, I'm playing it for a future video. Well, it's not like I have to look at anything while we talk about shows.
Yeah, well, that was just what you were playing, but anyway.
How did it show it anyway?
It's a little pop-up that comes up in the bottom right of my screen whenever one of my friends starts a game and starts playing a game. It pops up and it tells me what they're playing.
Are we friends on Steam?
I believe so. Yes.
That would explain it.
Because I don't play Steam all the time. Like, I hardly ever do.
I farted.
Good for you.
God.
But anyway, getting back on track after the Arbor Day. After the Arbor Day joke debate, I think for that audience, apparently the other joke was better. But as in a vacuum, Arbor Day joke, I take that better.
Mm-hmm.
He had a really cool virtual reality thing.
You mean the wannabe holodeck?
Yeah.
The
wannabe?
The holographic training exercise facility or something like that. It's probably how they would. It's probably got a genericized name that is like, yes, this is not a holodeck because a holodeck would be,
copyright.
That would be copyright. That would be stealing. But if we call it a holographic training simulator, that's not the same thing. It's the same thing, but it's not the same name. And it's not, well, it is exactly the same. But
It's a holographic augmented reality room.
har.
Really, really polite monsters.
Yes. Who like to dance?
Does everything have to dance? Yes.
Yes.
Reminds me of that one of the 12th Doctor episodes, one with the Kingfisher, or Fisher King rather, was it's like, you have a movie about a horror movie called Aliens? No wonder you keep getting invaded.
Yes.
Good point. And it's not like E.T. did anything to help.
But yeah. Do we have anything else on the Orville we want to talk about? I mean,
Let's see. I mentioned the racist robot.
The pervert blue.
Yeah. I guess there was also the guy that.
but she was really chill about getting stepped on.
Yeah. I mean, he was cool for a pervert, but
I mean, just going on that, it's like apparently because he's gelatinous, it physical damage really isn't a thing. Unless you got some sort of piercing thing, you just slap him, it's not going to do anything. He shifts around a little bit and then goes, "Oh yeah."
it's so jiggly.
Oh, good grief! That brought up an image from a later episode.
Oh God.
No.
Are you hungry?
I know what you're thinking of.
Yes. I do too. Are you hungry?
I just got that image out of my head. Let's see, and there was that one guy whose whole entire planet is a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Well,
And
the
his
vast
husband.
majority of his planet is dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was what, 90%?
Well, I mean, it's a lot more than that. I think it was an exceedingly rare birth. But, anyway.
Anyway.
And one thing that happened, though, that I don't remember happening... See, this is one of the advantages to doing a review after the whole season has come out, is you can go, wait a second, they never brought that back. Which, Alara, I mean, it makes sense, and it she has, more efficient muscles or something. I'm giving her the super strength without really fighting about it, but she could... instead of running away from the krill, and so the captain says, "Hey, run to the ship." She jumps into the air like 30 feet and lands not far from the thing. It's like,
I said run, not jump.
well, it's the fastest. It was really fast because it was she's super strong, so she has super strong legs. So when she jumps really far.
I said run, not fly.
I want to see an episode where they visit her planet and everyone's like, "Oh dear God, the crushing force is too much." He's like, "What?
Well, they
What's
couldn't
wrong?"
really. They would have to have some sort of gravity augmentation, like personal gravity augmentation device, in order to actually be able to survive on their planet, since it has a higher gravitational acceleration.
She's just walking normally. It's like, oh, I think it's fine.
Oh yeah, she might think it's a little heavy than usual, but she grew up with it, so it'd be like going home.
Mhm.
Um,
I love the fact that they made her father that her father was the doctor. What was the EMH?
yeah,
I think
Robert
so hard.
Picardo, I think.
Yes. Yeah, Robert Picardo.
I remember it was Picardo. I thought it was Robert, but
They had two Roberts. There was also Robert Beltram, who was Chakotay.
okay, yeah. Yeah, it's just like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Um,
I, I'm just glad the show wasn't Family Guy in space.
True.
yeah,
I think they've done a brilliant job so far.
what it was to me, what I thought it was basically to describe it. It's the next generation if they'd allowed people to have a sense of humor and they'd been a little more human about the characters. You know, it's an even more human TNG in that regard. But
Yeah.
it doesn't, there's advantages to the more prim and proper next generation things. It's, but I got to think TNG. Okay, TNG um, is the training video. Okay, TNG is the training video. It's the one with the next generation. It's the flagship. It's got all the really prim and proper people, oh, yes, we must do this exactly this way, and this is according to this, and I'm not going to make jokes, I'm going to do things, da, 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 da. As much, it still had jokes every once in a while, but for the most part, it was very serious. And this is like, if you weren't to, like, a Miranda that's just out patrolling some, backwater of the Federation, and you looked at their crew, this is more like what I would expect. It's like, these guys aren't the best. They're passable, but they're not the best. So,
but they get the job done.
Yeah, they get the job done. They do the things, but yes, there's a little more jocularity.
I mean, real soldiers are like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They especially when they're in battle and stuff, they have to have that sense of humor.
That gallows humor, yeah. Oh yeah, there's tons of that sort of thing. But yeah, I think this is in that way, like, I'm not dissing TNG for, it's not realistic to how they. No, it was number one, this was the flagship, so everybody there is like the hardest working, I'm getting this done, by the book sort of characters. That's the kind of people they're going to put on the flagship. So, there's that. And, it's also, it's the tone of it's a lot more serious. So it does have the occasional funny bit. Q comes on board, and the whole reason one of the big reasons Q works is because he goes and does things a little off the wall, a little more silly, whereas
the rest of the
whereas the rest of them are very serious, especially Picard. He's very serious. He has the occasional funny line, but it only works because the funny line works really well only because he's serious the entire time.
And it gives him a dry humor almost.
Yeah. That's why that humor, when it does happen in TNG, it works. It usually works off the fact that Picard is he's very dry, and he's not humorless, but he's not a very funny guy.
He laughs on the inside.
He's not going to he's not going to be the one up at the stand up. He's exceedingly competent. He's a very good captain. He's just not very funny, and that's okay because
a captain's job isn't to be funny. A
Yeah,
captain's job
you don't
is
want a
to.
clown in charge. There's a Parcells rule about that or something. But you know, but yeah, whereas you have somebody like Cisco's a lot more human. He seems a lot more human, and he still takes himself serious, but he's a lot more human. Because that's what that whole DS9 focused more on its characters and what happened to them and their growth and change. But Picard TNG was more about the situation they were put in, and thus it ended up being more episodic. Whereas DS9 had character arcs and growth and things happening all the time to these characters, so they could grow and change and long stretching stories and whatnot. But yeah, I think the Orville is what you would get if you put a camera on, instead of putting it on the Enterprise, you put it on, again, some Miranda or some little, patrol ship out in the middle of nowhere, that's not the prim and proper best of the best of the best, sir, sort of people, the ones with a little bit of jokes, a little bit of, the captain's not quite as good. He's got maybe have a little more sense of humor, and he's a little more off the wall, but he's still a good captain. It's like, yeah, this seems like this is what you would see if you stuck a camera on that.
I think this is the kind of ship that the Maquis had.
The Maquis would probably, yeah. I mean, when they weren't being chased by Starfleet, I imagine there was a lot more. And even when they were being chased by Starfleet, there was probably, there was probably still some good humored stuff. But
probably sapped a lot more with it. It's like, here we go again.
Yeah.
All right. Who bet that it would take them 1 week to find us? Nope. I guess I win the pool again. Woohoo!
Hope we can collect. I hope I can collect on it. But yeah, this seems like they're still effective. They still do their jobs well. They're just a little goofy, in times. It's mostly the helm, which they got rid of. They took, what's his name? He's now the engineer.
The black guy. What was his name?
Yeah, Lamar.
Yeah.
At this point, he's Lieutenant Lamar. But yeah, it was mostly kind of Lamar or Malloy, which were the sort of really funny stuff. Bortus and Robot Isaac. Bortus and Isaac are mostly funny because of what they don't understand. Their humor is so dry. That's what they get funny because they're not intentionally being funny. They're just funny because of what they don't understand. Whereas Malloy and Lamar are actively sort of funny.
Yeah, like when one takes the leg off one.
Oh,
yes.
Good grief.
Yes. Dude, that was hilarious.
You asshole!
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
I mean, admittedly, I would probably do the same thing.
But yeah, you probably would.
I mean, I probably have, but I would never admit it.
You know who Lamar and Malloy are? They are Harry Kim and Tom
Paris.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess Malloy is more Paris. Lamar, I think, is a little more self-confident than Kim ever was in that situation. Malloy is very much the Tom Paris of this show, but Lamar,
Yeah.
I think, is a little more serious and a little more confident. He's not. You know, he's not. Full on Vulcan like Tuvok, but he's a little more confident than Kim was. Kim always seemed
Yeah.
a little. He had a little bit of that shaking Chihuahua syndrome.
Yeah, that's because he always got the bum luck, like every time.
Yeah.
Oh, I got the alien disease again. Why do I always get the
Again.
short straw? Well,
It's like
think about this, Kim. At least you were never Tuvix.
true, but he did end up dating an alien that was a zombie.
Yeah, an alien that was a human that was a zombie. Yes.
Yeah, he had a zombie girlfriend, so
I mean,
Lindsay Ballard.
yeah.
couldn't be that bad.
She was rotting in front of him.
Yeah, it could be worse. I mean, there's a new hole every day.
Oh, good.
God.
Oh, you're horrible.
Did I ever say I wasn't?
I got under her slip and then I heard her rip. I pulled it out and I said, "Baby, keep the tip."
Oh, God, you made it even worse.
Hey, Voltaire did it first.
I love Voltaire.
Me too.
Anyway, but yeah, Orville. It should be interesting now that
They're established, now that they have
they seem to have the confidence of the studio, at least for the moment. They seem to be doing well, and in kind of, for the most part, Orville is succeeding a lot because number one, they've got good writers. They basically stole a lot of Star Trek writers and producers. They stole Braga.
it was the second episode was directed by Robert Duncan McNeil.
Yeah, so they basically took people who had actually done Star Trek and had them basically do more Star Trek, and with a relative vacuum of Star Trek stuff.
And where the only alternative is, what the fuck did you do to my Klingons, you bastard?
Yes, and we don't want to get onto that. It's also behind a paywall, so that also shrinks its watching base because you have to pay to watch it. So the Orville's for free.
Exactly.
So.
Oh, just wait. It'll get canceled.
No. Oh, you mean Discovery?
No, the Orville.
I think it's got at least a couple seasons in it. I would,
I think I read that it was at least greenlit for a third season.
Oh,
that's good.
Yeah. I knew they'd gotten their second season greenlit, but I hadn't seen. It's also going to depend on how the second season goes. If they can do it again, then good. And as long as I figure the way McFarlane is basically he's Fox's golden goose. You just, I want to make a show. What do you want?
Even if he makes fun of them all the time.
Yeah, but he's got Family Guy.
He makes them money.
He's made all these shows that have done a lot of stuff, and the Orville is doing okay. Then,
And I mean, not only that, but if you can't make fun of yourself, that's just sad. So I think they're pretty okay with, okay, he's mocking us again. It's cool. He's making us fun.
Well, and the thing is, there's also probably basically sensor flaring. When you want to get something, and the Animaniacs did this too. I would imagine that he does this a bit with the Orville. I almost guarantee he does it with Family Guy. You put something in very extreme. You put in something into the script before it gets approved by standards and practices and the censorship and all that stuff. You know, you put in something you know he's going to get kicked out. It's really funny, but you know they're not going to approve of. If you get it, hey, I got away with it. If not, they say, oh no, we can't have that. Then you go and you put what you really want in there and say, well, how about I just want to do this. Normally they might have taken that sense, they might have censored that too. But because you went out here and you went, a little farther out, now this doesn't look so bad, and they approve it anyway. And it's like, I maybe not so much in Orville, but I imagine he might have used that a couple times to get whatever something he wanted that, might not have passed without going to the extreme and then coming back.
Well, isn't Orville a Hulu exclusive show?
No, it's on
It's
Fox.
on TV.
Yeah, you can go to the Fox website, and when the series is showing, you can just watch the episode after it comes out.
Mm.
You can record it on your DVR.
Yeah, you can watch it on TV. You can watch it online for free. So as long as you actually are, it's within like a week or two of it. Like you can always catch up to it.
Yeah.
As long as you're not more than a week or so behind, you can always catch up to what the Orville's doing if they keep doing what they're doing when it comes back. But yeah, I wonder what did get left on the cutting room floor. Like, I imagine that scene we were thinking about earlier, I imagine he went with something a little more drastic with their gelatinous crew member and their chief medical officer. They might have had something even more extreme sent to the censors and said, oh no, you can't do that. And then they like, well, okay, how about this? That problem, if he didn't do that, he probably might not have been able to get that scene in.
Stop putting that image in my head.
You must suffer as well.
I bet you're never going to look at Jell-O the same way again.
I'm eating Jell-O.
At least it isn't lime, is it?
Shut up.
I mean, if it was cherry, it wouldn't look so bad, but you wouldn't be reminded as much. But yeah, lime Jell-O, you're not going to be able to look at the same way again.
I'm tempted on putting an action figure in it.
Oh no! That's...
put a no, not an action figure. Put a black Barbie in there. A naked black Barbie.
Stop.
Enact the entire
This is just so wrong.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. But yeah, an interesting series nonetheless, and not behind a paywall. So,
yay!
good.
And not absolutely redonkulous. At least not in a bad way.
Yes, it can get a bit silly, but it's not. But it's still a show for it's still basically Star Trek, but with more comedy. And I think McFarlane said something like he wasn't really that pleased with the way they represented it in the advertising the first go round, because it wasn't portrayed as serious enough. It was
Yeah, it did kind of seem it was just gonna be like a mock joke show or whatever.
yeah, it was going to
It's
be
supposed
just
to,
purely a parody, but it is a
yeah.
show in its own right. It's not just sitting there
Yeah.
always making fun of Star Trek. Oh, it makes fun of Star Trek, or
Oh,
it
yeah.
it it it, it
But at the
homages it
same
heavily, but it doesn't. It
but
doesn't.
at the same time, it makes fun of it. But at the same time, it also represents it better than the current Star Trek does.
Yes, it's a better. It's an homage. Now that might be interesting to take. An interesting take on it if after Discovery finishes its course, whether it will the next Star Trek they make, whether that takes another 20 years before they make another Star Trek after Discovery, whether they would go to, something akin to an Orville situation where you're not the Enterprise, you're not, you're not so serious, you're on a not so serious crew, but
Yeah.
Star Trek
Yeah.
takes itself a little too seriously maybe for that, but
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, maybe this show will show them that they don't have to, because they do all of the things classic Star Trek did. They did the allegory. They do the referencing modern culture in a way that using science fiction as a template to show all of the little things that maybe don't get noticed quite as easily because you're too close to the situation, but by putting somebody else in some far off science fiction world into the situation, it shines a light on it and shows you how ridiculous some of the shit we do is. You know?
Yeah. Woo! It is late. Let us switch to the doctor.
all right, I guess we're done then.
Well, I mean, it's like almost 30 minutes until over.
Yeah, we probably had a heck of an episode of the Orville review.